In this video, we look at the gender equality or inequality issues that exist in sports, and specifically with the U.S. women's national team soccer and men's and women's tennis. So, if you talk just about performance, there is no question that looking at soccer, the U.S. women's national team has been much more successful than the men's team. And if you look at popularity in the United States, at least, that's the case to where television revenue and viewership has been higher for women's games than men's. But if you look at the world, it tells a little bit of a more complex story. So, in 2015, for example, the U.S. women took home 12% of the total prize pool, and the U.S. men, on the other hand, took home 1.6%. Now, so the women are taking home a higher percentage of the revenue than their male counterparts. However, the prize pool for the men's World Cup in 2015 was $576 million, where the women's was only $15 million. Now, going back to why that is, why there's such a difference, it comes down to differences in sponsorship. With the men's World Cup, sponsors brought in about $529 million. In women's, it was only about 17. Now, the U.S. women's national team has contended that their pay, which is much less than the men's team, is not fair and not justified because they bring in more revenue. Now, and the problem with this is that it's much more difficult to test than racial discrimination, which can a lot of times be tested because you have different players playing in the same league, and you kind of see the trends in pay of the different groups. With women versus men's soccer, however, they do not play together, and they're not pulling from the same pool of money. So I'm not saying that it's not occurring. I'm not saying that by any means, this discrimination, pay disparity. But what I'm saying is that it's very, very difficult to measure, and which is a problem, and it makes them proving their case much more difficult. Now, with tennis, when open tennis first allowed professional athletes to participate in the 70s, men's prize money was about 10 times that in women. Now, in the early 70s, Billie Jean King, she threatened to boycott the tennis open. The prize money was not equalized. So Billie Jean King was one of the biggest names and faces, not only in women's tennis but tennis overall. Her protest threat did succeed, and the prize money was soon equalized. Now, there have been continued gender differences in prize money, even till more recently, with Wimbledon not equalizing the prize until the mid-2000s. Now, this doesn't necessarily, just because there's difference in prizes, however, this doesn't necessarily mean that discrimination exists. Even today, there are claims that are made that men should be paid more because, at least the Grand Slam tournaments, men's matches are longer, and because allegedly men's tennis is more popular. Now, that second claim that men's tennis is more popular is false. Women's matches, on average, tend to bring in more viewers than men's matches do. So, with both these cases, it is highly possible that there is gender inequality, especially when it comes to pay. But in a lot of cases, it can be difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which a lot of cases, needs to be the case when it comes to court, if it does go to court, because arguments can be made to poke holes into both or to any side of the argument. So, but that's just a brief overview of the gender inequality issues that exist and have perceived in sports.